One.
Hello and welcome to the Women's Cave. I think we did that because I was just trying to chat to make sure I didn't have any salad in my teeth though. Right?
Yeah, you probably are blasting through this a lot faster than I am lately.
Yeah.
It's because my old age is showing.
Your old age?
20...
Your old age though. Your old age.
Wait, hold on. If I get real close, you might be able to sing a wrinkle. Is that a wrinkle right there? Hold on. There we go. That's a wrinkle.
So she's making up wrinkles so she can look older. Like I don't know if that's a thing. I'm Jay though.
And I'm Winona. By the way, I'm mature.
You mature? You're mature. Are you sure? If you have to say it, then I don't think it applies.
Is it a lot like humility?
Yeah, I'm so humble. Are you sure? Because if you say it, I don't know if it applies. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Like we wrote a bunch of things and we did a bunch of things. We wrote literary life guides with pop poetry, which we like to call our books because why not be fancy with it, right?
Exactly.
So, and I thought divorce was bad with other life lessons, and I thought being grown up was easy, both available on Audible. And
let's do the top 4 of the 17.
Of the 17, because there's so many books. Okay, so and I thought I did my journey alone, and if only I were me. So those are the top 4. If y'all ever want them to change, you have to let me know. All right. And we did some magazines, and I thought literary magazine, which will be coming out soon. This month, right? So October, y'all will be coming out in October. And the 25 hottest indie authors, artists, and advocate magazine. We do that too. And you can find out everything your ladies are doing. And I do mean everything, including our
new jewelry line
and
clothing line. You gotta get the dresses, y'all.
And cups and all that good stuff. Everything your ladies are doing on www.andwethought.com.
Before we introduce our guests, I think we should take a day where we just wear the And I Thought dresses. And I Thought lady dresses.
Yeah, so when you order them and it wasn't like Corona and then Corona happened and you're in a pandemic and you recognize when you go to put on real clothes that you gained 10 pounds.
That's true.
So I have to lose that 10 pounds and then put the dress on for y'all.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So yeah, you can find everything on www.andwethought.com. Yeah, but y'all aren't here to hear us ramble on. You're here to hear from our wonderful guests. Wonderful guests, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm so happy to be here. I'm Landis Wade. I am a recovering trial lawyer. I was a trial lawyer for 35 years here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And in my mid-50s, experiencing conflict every day wasn't quite as fun and exciting as writing about conflict. So I wrote my first book, and it's a tale about lawyers who saved Christmas. Then I wrote another one, and I wrote another one. And so there's a trilogy. It's called the Christmas Courtroom Trilogy, and it's kind of a cross between My Cousin Vinny and Miracle on 34th Street. So a lot of fun, a lot of humor. And then the last thing I'm doing, since I took I don't know if it's a left or a right stage left when I decided I wanted to be more creative in my 60s, I decided I would start a podcast. And since I knew nothing about it, it was the perfect thing for me to do, right? I mean,
exactly.
so do things you don't know how to do, challenge yourself. I mean, my wife would say I didn't know the difference between a mixing bowl and a mixing board, and I really didn't know about either one. So, but I got in the studio, started playing with it, had a good time, had some people that helped me along the way, and now I just in not quite 2 years, I just released the 145th episode. So we've had a great time interviewing authors about their books.
Fabulous. That's
of course, the narcissist has a narcissist thought. Jed, continue.
Well, no, I was trying to get into the podcast. Come on, man. Let me do this. Okay, yeah. So wow. So that was a really big turn that you did from being a trial lawyer to being a podcaster and I guess, not a novel writer because
we have Grisham.
So he kind of did it. So
Grisham's a little ahead of me, a lot ahead of me. He's written a bunch of very, very successful novels. I've only written 3, so I'm way behind him. And but you know what, writing's fun, and I had a good time doing it. And when I did it, and I was trying to think of what I wanted to do creatively next, I didn't want to sit around and just write. I mean, I can see by your energy level, y'all are doing a lot of things. You got your hands in a lot of different, creative activities. And I thought, I'm not just going to sit around and write. I want to do something that's fun and engaging. And what's more fun than talking to other authors about what they're writing and what they're doing. And so I said, I know I'll talk to authors and I'll get an education that way, because rather than going to paying for an MFA, I'll just interview a bunch of smart authors and I'll learn from them.
I love how you said that. I love how you said that.
I feel like he's on to our secret.
I know he is, right? Because we've been into this many times on our show. That we're just so happy that our fans follow us because seriously, we just want to learn. So we like ask a whole bunch of different people to be on just because we're like, well, what is it that you exactly do?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I Googled it and I didn't understand. And then I looked at YouTube and I was like, I still don't understand. So I'm going to ask someone to come on the podcast and they can explain it to me.
Exactly. I mean, you can always ask them. And I love asking the question, you know, of authors who've been writing for a long time, you know, what would you, if you could go back and tell your younger writing self something that you've learned in your years of experience, what would it be? And a lot of great answers come out of that because authors learn a lot over a period of time.
So I'm going to say marketing.
You wasn't asking us.
One more second, marketing.
That's good. Well, certainly on the crafts, I mean, on the business side, you're exactly right. I mean, because when you write your first book, you're not thinking about anything other than trying to get the darn thing finished, right? And then when it's finished, it's not like Field of Dreams, you know, if you write it, they will come. You got to actually get out there and do something. So marketing is a part of that. But they also talk about the craft of writing too, and things that they didn't quite understand when they started and they wrote their first book, which is, you know, give it time, give it patience. Everybody's got their own voice. Everybody's got a unique voice. Don't be afraid that just because somebody else has written on a topic that you don't have something valuable to say about it.
Absolutely. Exactly. I agree 110%.
So I have a question. So when you went to write your first novel, since you are a child lawyer, and that seems like a really plotting line of work. Yeah. Did you do that, or did you just sit down and pants it?
I broke all the rules. I just pantsed it. So here's what happened. So my wife is sitting there and she's watching Miracle on 34th Street at Thanksgiving. And I used to write a lot of things at the end of the year when court was slow, but I never finished them. I'd get started, never finished. And there was this scene, you know, the scene in the movie where they prove that Santa is the one and only when the mail comes in and all this kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, I wonder if I could write a Christmas story set entirely in the courtroom 2 days before Christmas, where someone has stolen something that holds the key to Christmas. And if this young lawyer doesn't believe in this person and win the case, Christmas won't come for hundreds of thousands of children. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start writing. And so the thing was, to answer your question, I didn't have an outline. I just had characters that I called witnesses who I put on the stand and started asking them questions. And I was surprised at the answers they gave me. And it led me from one witness to the next. And I was learning the story as they were going. I came home one night and my wife said, well, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going to my study to find out what happens next. So now, of course, you can't write like this all the time, right? Because you might go down the wrong way and never find your way back if you don't have a little bit of an idea about where you're going. But I think there's something to be said for a blend between sort of outlining and pantsing, because, you know, writing's got to be fun, right? And it's got to be, you know, part of the fun is just letting that muse take over and sort of pantsing it out.
Exactly. I so agree. So how did the skills from being a lawyer help you with writing? Because I know you guys end up writing very long, detailed, annoying briefs.
It's very kind of you to say, yeah. So, but you're right. But see, what happened is the judges got smart and they placed limits on what lawyers can put in their briefs, because they're supposed to be briefs and called briefs for a reason. And so by putting those limits on you, you have to be disciplined in what you do. So I did learn a certain discipline with the economy of words, right? Which I think is important for a writer to have, because, you know, I don't think people want to read 180 or 90,000 words all the time. They want to get to the words that matter, and they want to, you know, the story to move quickly and be exciting. So that was helpful to me, the discipline of trying to narrow it down to the words that really mattered. Also, I think just the discipline of, you know, having a project, coming up with a goal and finishing it on a deadline, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very enjoyable.
And I had a deadline. It was December 25th, because the very first book I wrote was going to be a gift for my family. And I did it. I started on November whatever Thanksgiving was that year, and finished it Christmas Eve and gave it to my family, and they thought I'd given them socks or something. So, you know, and then the story got out, my colleagues learned about it, and then I went back and got an editor and got published and did all that kind of thing. But the first draft was just, you know, it was a first draft, as you might expect.
Nice. Yeah. So, what do you plan on doing with your stories in the future? Do I hear? It sounds like it's a great plot for a Hallmark movie.
Hey, if you work for Hallmark, let's talk offline here after. I've had several people say that that'd be a lot of fun. I do have a trilogy, and one of the fun things I did this summer on my podcast, I do interview authors sometimes about the craft and business of writing, like you do, and we were talking audiobooks, and so I hadn't put my 3 books in an audiobook format, and I decided to do that, and I went on the ACX platform. I engaged with he's a talented actor in LA, and he read or narrated my 3 audiobooks. Are coming out this fall for Christmas, and so that's kind of fun, and it's just yeah, it's a lot real exciting. And so I'm going to be teaching a course this fall on how to turn your book into an audiobook, because it's a lot of fun to do. And I would encourage people to think about, when they do that, don't necessarily be captive to Amazon and Audible. I've got nothing against, except that I support independent bookstores and everything. But you can actually go on the ACX platform and produce your audiobook and do it in a non-exclusive way. And y'all probably know this. And then put it out on a platform called Findaway Voices, which goes out to libraries and a lot of independent. I mean, I was amazed at how many indie platforms there are for audiobooks. And y'all know this because you're into marketing, you got all that. But that's a great way for an author who's got a book, because to get it out there in another way, to get it out there, in an audio format. And it's fun to do it.
I'm going to take a moment to be narcissistic.
Okay.
We have a picture with the president of Findaway.
Yes.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that was really fun. That we met him at a conference, and that was exciting.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your podcast.
Okay, sure.
Like how you enjoy. Well, no, I know you have some questions
about the podcast.
I'm like, well, Nona has these questions. I was waiting for her to interrupt me at like any time. I was like
at any moment you can interrupt. Of course, I'm not going to interrupt then. It's you.
Oh, well, Nona.
So my question about the podcast, of course, is where do you find your guests, and how does someone apply to be on your show? I mean,
she means her.
She means her.
She means her. You saw that smile like that. Yes. Yeah, and if y'all listen to this on the podcast, go on over to the Facebook or YouTube, and you will see her smile.
Yes, exactly. So here's how you do it. You go to the website, which is charlottereaderspodcast.com. It's all one word, charlottereaderspodcast.com. There is a submission page on the website, and basically, you input your website and your social media. You mention your book. You do a little teaser about it. You give me your bio. When that goes in, I take a look at those submissions. I get back to folks, and if it's a fit, we'll kind of line them up, and we'll try to find a recording date. And I'm not quite as nimble as y'all in terms of getting people on. I'm a one-man band here kind of thing. So I record a couple of months in advance, and because I like to read the books and, spend that time, with the books. And so that's a part of what I do. And I like to have the authors read some of their book on the show. So we do that as well. So yeah, by all means, go to the website, submit, tell me about a book you'd like to do, and we'll see what we can do.
Also, so now I know there goes our shot, right? Because it's just poetry,
right? Exactly.
No, we do poetry too. So, in fact, I'm not a poet, but I've learned in interviewing poets. Actually, what I like listening to poets read their work actually more than I like, reading it myself. So that's the beauty of my podcast. I get them on, they read their work, and I actually have a little better understanding, I think, of what they're doing when I listen to them than when I read it myself. I don't know if that makes any sense or not.
No, that makes plenty of sense. Like sometimes people read our work and they're like, oh yeah, this was good. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, it was good, blah blah blah. Yeah. And then we read it and they go, oh
yeah, now I get it. Yeah.
Well, that makes all the sense.
But I think it's fun because when a poet reads it, they can give you how they hear it in their head. Right. But that's not important because we're about to go on a tangent where I interview myself.
No. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. So how have you found that your podcast has helped other authors and then you as an author personally?
Yeah, so I feel like, the authors have been very kind in thanking me for, putting them on the podcast, because I don't charge authors to be on the podcast. I just ask them to help me promote, and some of them will join my Patreon page, which like for $5 a month, you get this exclusive content that I put out. And so, they, I think, really appreciate the fact that when we're finished with the recording, they've got a nice set of show notes that appear on my website that has a URL link. They've got a podcast that goes out on all the major podcast platforms. I'm now on the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. It goes out there, and so it gives them sort of so. You think about it. If you go to a book signing, how many people are typically going to show up? If you get 50, you're really lucky, right? I mean, so in a podcast, you can reach, 200 or 300 people in a week, and then you'll have continuing people listening to the show. So to part one, I think authors have really appreciated the ability to get on and talk about their books. And also, like you, I can tell, to have a good time. My podcast is laid back. It's casual. I enjoy laughing. I enjoy getting to, now I can get serious about some parts of the books too, but I enjoy having a good time. We don't wear coat and tie to work here, so it's that kind of thing.
You did that already.
I did that already. And so, and secondly, to your point about, how it's helped me, well, unfortunately I was writing a book and then podcasting is taking so much time. I hadn't been able to finish it on the one hand, but on the other hand, I've written some short stories that have been published. I've also, gotten back to what we talked about. I really have gotten a good education here, talking to other authors, and not just on the regular podcast, but on the exclusive episodes we do, because we dive into all kinds of writing craft. And I've learned a heck of a lot about marketing and business. I didn't know about ebook promotion, and I'm doing that right now with my ebooks. And I was really kind of amazed. We decided to make this first book in the trilogy, Christmas Heist, free, and then these other two. This is the legally binding Christmas, okay? And then you have the Christmas Redemption. This involves the reindeer hoverboard, by the way. It's the most sought after Christmas present in 50 years, and there's a class action lawsuit and everything. So we decided to put this first book on permanently free, right? And that drill. So you have this funnel that works. And I was kind of amazed when we put it on these promotional sites, how I've gotten like 15,000 downloads of the first book. And I've gotten like 30 or 40 reviews in the last month just by putting that book up for free. And so I think, to answer your question about how the podcast has helped me as a author, I've learned a lot talking to other authors about not only the craft of writing, but how to promote your books. And then I'm sharing that with listeners, both on the free podcast and on my Patreon page.
Absolutely.
I love this. Okay, I want to go circle back quickly. Number one and number two. Number one, you said you were going to put together something for audiobooks. So when do you think you can expect to have that out so people can listen to that? And then number two, where's your Patreon so that people can give you money?
Oh, yeah, that's great. So first about audiobooks. Well, the 3 audiobooks are already up on Find Away Voices. So you can find it at some of their platforms like Chirp and other places. Unfortunately, ACX is really slowing down with the COVID pandemic. And the second book, The Legally Binding Christmas, I think we submitted it to them July 31st, and they still haven't approved it yet. So I think that book and the other book, the third book, will be up on Audible probably in November. But right now they're out there. Libraries have started to download all 3 of them, and you can also get them on these indie platforms. Also, like Libro.fm, if y'all are familiar with that platform, it's great for independent bookstores. When you buy your audiobooks from Libro, you're actually helping a local bookstore. Oh, the second question, Patreon. It's Patreon, and people don't always know how to spell that. It's patreon.com/Charlotte Readers Podcast. And so that's how you find me. That's how you find the 25 writing episodes that are already up there, hour-long conversations, with authors. And so that's what's going on in that world.
I was going to say quickly, we were at a conference where Audible actually showed up, and they said that at that time in March, they were 3 months behind.
Okay.
But they were hiring people to take care of that. And then COVID happened.
It was the beginning of March, y'all.
It was the beginning.
Like the first day of March.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's much worse now.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be out in time for Christmas, though, there. But fortunately, it's on the other platforms already. But Audible should have them all up by November.
I'm sure. So we're gonna leave with these last 2 questions. The first one is, what are 2 pieces of advice that you would give new budding authors out here?
2 pieces of advice. Well, I think one is, and I may have hinted at this earlier, is that I think everybody has a story in them, and don't be afraid to tell it. And two, everybody's got their own voice, and don't be afraid to use it, and be patient. It takes a while to get something, down on paper sometimes, but enjoy it, enjoy the process, and don't feel like everything has to be about how many books you sell, and if you're a podcaster, how many downloads you have, because the people that are listening, the people that read it, they're the ones that matter, right?
Absolutely. I love that. And so my last question is, where can people find out more about you and your podcast and your books?
Is there a website with all of that?
There is that. So thank you for that. It's charlottereaderspodcast.com. I'm also working on my personal website, which should be revised soon. It's landiswade.com. Real creative there, just my first and last name, Landis Wade. And on there you can see at both websites. You can see pictures of the books. You can get information, but you can see about all the authors that I've had on the show on Charlotte Readers Podcast. And the beauty of this is, how the whole one door closes and another one opens. I know it's a cliche, right? But I was only doing interviews in the studio for the first 100 interviews I did, and then COVID hit. And if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have figured out how to use Squadcast. I probably wouldn't be launching on Tuesday my first ever Zoom to Facebook thing like y'all do. I probably wouldn't have done that. I probably would have stayed right in the studio, interviewed local and regional authors who would travel to Charlotte. But since that happened, I've been interviewing authors from all over the United States. I interviewed one in South Africa. I've interviewed them, and so it really just opened up a whole new, world.
I think we started off virtual and
we never went.
We had to start virtual. One of our first ones was Ireland?
Right. Okay. So we kind of started off virtual, but it's nice to actually see many people step into the virtual world and then proceed to use it. Why am I limiting myself to people here in Maryland or in California? Why am I not interviewing people in Canada or Jamaica or Ireland? Wherever.
Although we have had our first Greece interview.
Yeah, we did.
That's right.
That was fabulous.
But there's something to be said. If y'all have probably done this before, where you have that in-person interview, you're there in the same space, you can see each other, you can pick up on things, you can have that time is really enjoyable in the studio. But I do think that in order to reach more people and to reach authors, particularly for the next 6 months, whatever it's going to be, we got to do this. We got to learn this technology so we can bring these voices to people without having to be in the same space.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We definitely do. I think that's a great spot to leave on.
It is a great spot to leave on. So y'all check out his website and check out all the things that he's doing, and definitely check out his podcast.
Oh, yes. And I was going to book sounds interesting.
I know, right? I can't wait to get him on Audible. I'm about to do it right now as soon as I get off. Okay, so I guess I'll wrap us up. You can find out everything your ladies are doing on www.andwethought.com. While you're there, you can go down to the homepage and see all the wonderful new shows that we have started. Oh, no, what?
I just want to say,
before when I needed you to interrupt me, nothing.
But you really needed this time.
But let me thank y'all for having me on. I appreciate
it. We'll see.
Okay. So I just want to say that you guys go to the Ladies Tale podcast because Professional Actors Read My Script, and episode 2 just came out.
Yes, it did. So, all right. But before I put in all of that, please go to the Ladies tab and go to the middle and see the charities that we proudly support. And yes, we know this is 2020, and yes, we know that, as people would say, money is funny. So you might not have money to donate to them, but you might be able to donate some time or some things that you have lying around. Or maybe you can just add them on social media or fill out the contact us form and say thank you for doing this wonderful work in the world, because we all need encouragement.
I'm a narcissist and I still need someone to encourage me.
She doesn't, but okay, she's lying, but okay, sure, we'll go with that. But with that being said, remember, wisdom is all around you if
you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Will No
and Jade. Oh yeah, thanks for listening.